So I think that the migration of evangelicals and really all denominations of the Christian faith, for the most part, toward the Republican Party, as Lewis said, is almost wholly attributable to the social positions and the tact that they take when speaking to that audience. I think that's the reality of it.
I went through a similar experience like you all are sharing years ago, but in my case, it was with President Obama. He's the first politician I actually listened to. Prior to that, I was a one-issue voter.
Mm-hmm.
I was an evangelical minister. I had to be against anything that was abortion related. So I just checked the box Republican my whole life until I listened to President Obama. And what I learned from him is to look at things with more grace. Both sides, as you said.
Mm-hmm.
Start to listen to both sides, and I've had my journey started then. So I agree with what you're saying. Christian nationalism. Are you all familiar with that? What have you heard? Give me your thoughts.
My interpretation, I guess, of that would be building off of the idea that we're a Christian nation, or it was founded on Christian principles. I guess forced in a way to live of the Christian and believe the Christian values if you're going to be in the country. I'll at least preference this. I strongly believe in the separation of your religious views and government. I don't think that they should be intertwined hardly at all. I think that people should want to live a Christian life in terms of just morals and how you treat people and whatnot. I think as a nation, that's something that we should hope for or shoot for. It's kind of dystopian in a way, but at least if we all lived with those values, but I don't think it should be a requirement at all.
Okay, good. Scott, what do you think?
My understanding of that movement is twofold. I think they're actually two-minded. So you have one side of the Christian nationalism movement that says, Christ is king, I'm a true believer, I am going to use whatever political means I have to reach a point where I can influence society to try to get these Christian tenets in every part of society that I possibly can. They're true believers. They're actually of the mind that I am doing this because it's the right thing to do, because the Word of God should be in every facet of life. Then you have the other side of the house that is much more cynical, that says, as you said, that this is a power structure that is not as well tapped as it could be. We need to bring everyone that we possibly can into this fold. I don't personally believe in God or Jesus or any of that, but what I do believe in is using this fervor, this strength of belief to try to forward my ends. So there's two minds to that. You have the core, the people who actually believe these things, and then you have the people that are there just to utilize it for political ends. As far as I can see, they both share the same goal, is to align the country both within its governmental structures and societally as much as they can to those Christian tenets. Removal of gay marriage, removal of as many LGBTQ related policies as possible, and a movement back toward where we were, say, 60s, 70s in terms of many of the societal movements, not all, but many.
Yeah.
I think that the powerful part of that movement is that they're optimistic, and they do have a very big tent. If you look at a lot of these groups, take Charlie Kirk's group, for instance, Turning Point USA, he was actually very welcoming in terms of didn't care what race you were, didn't care actually if you were gay or not. I know there's people that say he said a lot of things that were hurtful about the LGBTQ community. Well, he also sat on stage in many of his talks and said, this is my friend. They are a homosexual, but they're also Republican. They're still our ally, right? So they don't burn bridges, even though that's outside of a lot of Christian belief, right? They didn't burn that bridge because, again, it's a power structure. they're a Republican, I'm a Republican, this is a big tent, right? We disagree on things, but we ignore those disagreements. I think on the Democrat side of things, I think a lot of times there are so many litmus tests on the Democrat side. You know, you have to be pro-abortion. You know, we're seeing it right now in the conflict with Israel and Gaza. If you say the wrong thing, you're in trouble, right? So there's a whole lot of litmus tests on that side that can get you in a lot of hot water or cause you to lose support, whereas on the Republican side, it's like, look, I don't believe in gay marriage, and I think homosexuality is a sin. However, you're a Republican, and we have many of the same ends. End of story.
But can't you, in theory, do that also on the Democratic side?
You can, but I think it's much, much harder, again, because a lot of the positions that are taken on that side are not taken from a pragmatic policy standpoint. They're taken from a moral standpoint, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think one of the wisest political statements that I ever heard came from Jonathan Haidt. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but Jonathan Haidt basically pointed out that the two sides actually need each other. They're two sides of the same kind of structure. So in other words, when the right has excesses and they run too far, it's the job of the left to grab them and pull them back to the center.
Right.
And vice versa, they need each other.
Right.
The issue has become that a lot of the social issues that are championed by the left are moral imperatives to them. It's not a policy issue. It's a litmus test of whether or not you're a good person or a terrible person. If you don't support trans rights, you're a terrible person. If you don't support preventing climate change, you're a terrible person and you want the destruction of the world. You know, so it's these binary litmus tests that are on that side for morality purposes that I think make it very difficult for somebody on the Democratic side to step out of line, and we see it all the time. On the Republican side, I mean, look at Joe Rogan. For instance, Joe Rogan has been widely embraced by the Republican side. He holds virtually none of the views that are traditionally Republican. He's pro full legalization of marijuana. He's pro-choice. He's even, he's open to legalizing sex work. He is not your traditional Republican at all, but they have said, you know what? We agree with you on enough, and we'll work with you on those issues. But I struggle to find that on the Democrat side. If you're on the left and you say anything outside of those dogmatic principles, you get ostracized. They fight a lot.
That's interesting observation. So let me ask both of you a question in that context. The transgender athletes, that was a big issue lately about, I think it was a swimmer or something like that.
I believe that was Leah
Thomas.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't think we were going to go to this conversation, so I don't have those notes in front of me, but I do have the statistics on the number of transgender athletes there are in our nation. And it's like, I think it was something like in the NCAA arena, like less than 1%, something like that. A very minimal number. Mm-hmm. So my question is this: how much do you think that non-compromise, that moral issue, has been really embedded on, I think, both sides? You said one side, but I think really it's on both sides. But how much has that been embedded, that feeling to take a stand on these moral sides, because of the social media emphasis at particular times, particular cases, like using this transgender case as an example? You know, my philosophy of that is they're making a mountain out of a molehill. I mean, we're talking about a number of instances. And then I don't know, in some instances, the competitor who lost was suing. Another instance, the competitor who lost could care less. You understand what I'm trying to say? I think a lot of this, some of these social issues, not a lot, some of them, have been blown way beyond their proportional relativeness. Because, what's your reaction to that comment? What do you think? What do you think? You think how much of that's true? Or
I'll have to kind of throw it back at you with the number of cases